Well, hello, avid readers of Christian fiction. I am so excited to have my friend Christina Suzann Nelson here again. Now, we talked to her in the fall to say the book I read in the fall was one of my favorites, but oh my gosh, Shaped by the Waves. First of all, Christina, welcome. It's so glad to have you here again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I am in love with this book. I listened to an audiobook, which it just came out on audiobook. See, that tells you how fast that I listened to it on audiobook. And I had 40 minutes left last night when I just had to go to sleep. 3:30 in the morning, I woke up and I'm like, I need to finish that book. So I got up at 3:30 so I could finish the audiobook of this because I just had to find out what was going to happen to Cassie. So tell us a little bit about this book and like how you got the idea for it.
So I had the basic idea, but it wasn't really coming together yet. And we were with a group of our friends, a bunch of us that went to college together. We married the guys that lived in the house next door,
Oh
and we
wow.
all
Okay.
we all homeschooled our kids together. And so we've just done life together for years and years and years. And so we have these traditions. We have Friends Thanksgiving at our house, which is like 65 to 70 people in my house, and we sit down,
Wow.
pass the food, and we spend a weekend at least at New Year's together, and we spend some time in the summer camping together. Anyway, so we were at one of our New Year's events at the coast, and I had gone down to the beach, and there's this stream of water that goes through it. And streams of water in Oregon are like icy cold. They're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
You don't play with that, man. So you have to pass through this water to get to the beach and the waves and everything. And so I looked at my friend. There's these twins, Maggie and Lucy, and they're the sweetest. They're awesome. And I said, where should I cross? Where is the place to cross? And one of them said, just beyond the seagulls. And so my
Mm,
brain, like somebody said, oh, that'd make a good book title. And then my brain just started doing that weird thing where it just
yes.
taking off on its own without any control whatsoever. And I started seeing the story come together immediately in a little town on the coast. And so that was the beginning of all of that. So
I love it. Okay,
yeah, so
so
I like immediately knew the characters and everything. So
like they were just there. They just like popped up in your brain and
they just right there beyond the seagulls, which is what I called the book the whole time I was writing it.
okay, so then and then publishing changed to Shaped by the Waves, which is a good title. So okay, so Cassie is a doctorate student. Is that how you say it? Doctoral student who is running away from her past. I won't give too much away, but she has a daughter and she has to go back to her hometown to care for an ill aunt. And then it there was more of a mystery in this book that I was like trying to figure out. So did you mean to make it like more of a mystery than I think some of your other books there was like a thin element of what's going to happen or is this person alive or different things, but in this one I'm like, ooh, it could be this, it could be that. Like there was that more of a mystery element. So did you intend when you first started with all these characters that that would be part of it?
Well, that all just came together that way. I don't know. I don't know how much I
so,
ever
so
anything
it was just in your brain, the mystery.
in there, and I that must be the direction I'm heading, because my book that comes out in 2023
Hmm.
is definitely has a strong mystery thread
Mm,
in it also.
I
But
love it, and I also
so
always love how you have multiple points of view.
mhm.
So there's like two stories. There's Cassie's story and there's Nora's story, and they have similarities, and you can see the similarities. But it's not like even their story wraps up in this neat bow at the end. Like you
Yeah.
just see similarities between them, and it's beautiful. You did such a great job. It woke me up at 3:30 in the morning so I could finish. I went back to bed. I finished the book. I did have some quiet time, and then I went back to bed. But as soon as I woke up, I'm like, I gotta find out what happens in this book, which is fascinating. I also loved that Cassie had to care for an aging aunt, which was more like a mother figure for her. Because my grandma is 92. She
Yeah.
lives with me literally when I was sitting down to do this is what she always says. She always says, "Yoo-hoo!" And I'm like, "Ah, I'm getting ready to go on live video." And she will keep calling and calling and calling, and she wanted a snack. So I'm like, "Here's a banana. Here's some crackers. I'm gonna go to this interview." But it made me just laugh as I came to sit down because I'm like, this is so much. Unless you're living that kind of life where you're caring for people, um, you don't even understand like every little thing. Like, oh, those steps look steep, or that ramp looks too bumpy,
Mhm.
or all those things. So where did you draw from when you were dealing with the caregiving aspects and kind of the struggles that Cassie was going through?
So my grandmother lived with us the last 3
Okay.
years of her life when I had 4 little kids that we were homeschooling.
Mhm.
Not nearly as many as you, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it was long before my littles were on the scene. But it was a tough time. It was
Mhm.
such an honor to be able to care for her. But that is, there's that balance between I was so grateful to get to do it, and I was so tired.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tired all the time. Tired. Um, so I drew from that quite a bit. And then my dad had the Parkinson's dementia before
Mm.
he passed away. And that was something that I hadn't expected and didn't really understand prior to that. So I wanted to bring that in a bit too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is a joy, it is a struggle. And in addition to, you have Cassie and her Aunt Shasta, and then you have Nora's story. The community, well, let me just say Marshall's amazing, by the way. I won't go through any more into that, but yes, please, he's great. The community of characters that you built around, I was like, I want to go live in this little town with all these people that just love for each other and care on each other. And I think each one of them at some point in the book of this cast of characters had something very important to say, something insightful to say. And so that was the fun part. Like, you think it's going to be this passing conversation, then it's going to be like the right words that's like, ooh, that was really good. And so I just love those books that have that small community feel, that have the cast of characters, and they all seem very real, but also I think like your last book I just read, there's also more going on beneath the surface of everybody in this book. So it's so hard to talk about it without like sharing more. But I would just love to hear like just maybe some of the writing process as you're delving into this whole community.
So the characters for me, a lot of times they just show up as I'm writing a scene. This new person walks in. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Who are you? What are you doing here? What's your story?
So I have a very basic outline of what I'm going to write. I know kind of where the story's going.
Hmm.
But all those things, like those secondary characters, they appear as I'm going. And they tend to appear, I'm writing along and somebody walks in and I'm like, I know all this stuff about them. Immediately
Yeah.
I'm just know all this stuff that is going on in their background. And yeah. So I don't
You
know.
make it sound too easy, like all the stories just shows up, all the characters just shows up. Does the book write itself? Do you have to actually work on writing the book? I
I
need to
have to
know.
sit here and type.
Okay, okay, you have to sit there and type.
I don't know. I've always been in my head, I think, an awful lot. Just I mean, I can't sit at the airport without having a story for 10 of the people that are sitting around me. So, and my husband's not a big fan of this.
Yeah,
They're always like, I bet that they're going to such and such place because this happened and they're really feeling this way about it. He's like,
yes.
you don't know.
It's so true though when you just see people or you're like, why would they wear that? Why would they wear that? And then your mind starts going on, well, they're wearing that because blah blah blah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it is that people watching, and then I know, I mean, the more we live life, the more we hear people's stories, the more we hear news stories, and then we just like there's so much under the surface that we often don't realize. And I love that you explore those things. And I love, I don't know, I just I find your books very relatable because I think we've had a lot of the same experiences in
Yes.
adopting kids and, hard places, and even just the social worker thing again, coming
Mhm.
coming through this. We had a nurse yesterday visit, and I'm like running around cleaning the house, all the stuff, and I'm like, I know that if there is a pair of shoes by the front door, that nurse is not going to care. Like, that's not the thing. But it is all those emotions when you live through those caregiving things, and people are coming, and you have people visiting your house, and you have checkups, and then they're asking you all these questions. I'm like, I can so relate to these characters, and I think that's why I just love your book so much, because I'm like, okay, she understands because she walks the same thing too. So for those that maybe missed the last interview, which go back and find it, connect. You got to see this, but tell about some kind of your life experience that lead into the type of books that you want to write.
Well, so I'll start with my grandparents. My grandparents chose to be my grandparents. They'd been foster parents to my mother when she was in high school. And
Mm,
they completely shaped my life. So that made a huge change, a huge difference for me. Um, then I always knew that I would adopt a toddler from
mm.
foster care. I knew it would be a little boy. I just knew it. And so I told my husband this when we were dating because he didn't know this is a deal breaker. You
Yeah.
have to be board with this. So he went along with it because I don't think he thought any of these things that I said. I don't know. I guess he thought that little did he know.
Little he know we're gonna follow
5
through with all of
adoptions
them.
later.
Yeah. How many adoptions later?
5.
5 adoptions. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had our first son, the kid with the boring story, who was just born, and then so
I have
sad.
some of those too. Yeah.
And then I didn't get pregnant right away, so we just jumped. I'm like, let's do this. And you would not believe the day that well, first of all, I was with a friend of mine in my car. We stopped to get my mail, and I saw the first pictures of Joshua, and he was exactly the image that I.
Wow.
He was so cute. He had these dark eyes and these little dark curls. And anyway, so we adopted Joshua, and then we got a phone call from an attorney that we had finalized that adoption with, and we ended up doing an infant adoption with Alicia. And then the foster family who had Joshua, we were in touch with them. And then one day I picked up Emma, and I just knew she was supposed to be ours too. So we
Mm.
adopted Emma, and we thought we were done. And years go by, and we're like this close to having an empty nest. Emma's just about to start her senior year, and we get that letter from DHS saying, hey, these 2 kids are in foster care. Can you be a resource for these kiddos? So we had originally the choice was we were going to foster the girls and try to help their bio mom get back on her feet. And she passed away suddenly, and we
Mm.
adopted 2 more kids. So
That's a lot.
so
And it
yeah.
sounds so similar to our story. And it's so hard. It's so funny when we moved from Montana to Little Rock because there's so many kids available for adoption in foster care, and a lot of people don't know. And her book isn't about this. This is a side story, people. But a lot of people don't
It's an
know that when
important
you
side story.
important side story, yes. Very passionate about the side stories.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that kids are like you don't have to foster and like worry that they're going to go back to their parents. They're already free. Like the parents' rights have already been terminated, and so at the time in Arkansas there was like 600 kids. Like the parents' rights have been terminated, and they had photos up in the church. Like we walk in the church, we're trying out churches because we just moved to town, and there's all these panels with photos of kids. I'm like, what in the world is this? And 7 children later,
Yeah.
yeah, you see their faces, but it's so funny that ones on the panels weren't even the ones we adopted. But it just gets your heart realizing like there's so many kids out there that need homes. And yeah, with our first that we adopted from foster care, we found out about them on a Monday, talked to their attorney on a Tuesday, met them on Wednesday, and brought them home on Thursday.
Yeah.
And they were like, there's no time to prepare because they had a failed adoption before. Anyway, all the
Yeah.
things. So I think that just goes to show um, the depth of the writing comes from when you're interacting with these situations. I mean, it's like, they always say, write what you know. Well, this isn't exactly what you experience, but you do know about, children wondering, who am I and where do I belong? You know about caring for elderly people. You know about what it's like to have a caseworker or a social worker or a hospice worker come into your house, and the nerves of all those things. So I think that's what makes your novel so true to life to me, is that it's like, okay, yes, I remember this feeling. I remember this moment. Oh, I want to talk so bad about the cherry on her forehead. I'll just say that moment. I don't want to give anything away from the book, but that moment, I'm like, I could totally just so relate to this. Oh, so good. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I live. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the moments when you think, oh, the caseworker. Oh, so this is a good one too. So we had a nurse coming last month to visit grandma, and she was supposed to be here at 2. And I'm like, okay, it's 1 o'clock. I could run to Walmart. Well, then my kids call me. They're like, she's here early. So I run home. She's sitting in the parking lot waiting. Walk in. Grandma had given herself a shower. She has not in 5 years given herself a shower. So she's in there in a puddle of water in the 30 minutes that I'm at Walmart as the nurse is walking in behind me. And I'm like, she never does this. I promise you. It's like the safety hazard everywhere. There's water everywhere. Grandma was left alone for 30 minutes. Anyway, all that to say, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to know. You mentioned you have a book coming out next year. Can you give
Mhm.
us a little hint about it? Like, how much are you able to tell us about what's coming out next?
So the story next year is about a podcaster who has to,
Oh,
she goes back to a place that she had been. She hadn't really lived there, but she'd stayed there for a while. And her childhood best friend has been missing, it turns out, all this time. And so she's
whoa.
trying to uncover the story of what happened to her friend. And so it was so fun because I got to write this whole one point of view is all in 1987.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah. So
The
who
whole
does
book is in 87?
1987? Just one point of view is all 1987. So we go back
Wow.
regularly, and it's that was so fun.
That was a good year. I was a sophomore, and
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
wearing the big bangs and the neon clothes and
wings and
with the
the,
wings and yeah. Okay, that's gonna be super fun. All right.
yeah, it
So
was really
is that one like all the way done now, or is it in editing?
turned
Or?
in. So I'm doing some edits to that right now. So
Very
yeah,
fun. I love it.
it's on its way.
That's gonna be a good one, but we have to wait till next year. Oh, that's so long to wait. Okay, so if you have that one, can you give us a title? Do you know the title, or is it
I don't
still
know the
like
title yet.
okay,
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've called it the rest of the story, but that's just,
the
I'm not
working title?
good at titles, so I usually just throw something on and yeah.
Yeah, the publishers have changed probably maybe a third of my titles.
Oh, I think
But
they have changed like 100% of mine.
well, that's okay. And do you have ideas for or plans on a book you're doing after that one?
Yes. So I was recently diagnosed with and I don't know if this is the book I'm going to write next. I have to get the okay on it, but I
Yeah.
was recently diagnosed with the BRCA1 mutation, so the breast
I
cancer
don't know.
gene.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and that was a big surprise because in my family, everyone dies really young, and so we didn't really have any like family history. Because,
Wow.
um, so, yeah, so that's been a very interesting journey as I've been. It is really common for me to have 3 or 4 doctor's appointments in a week right now.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so I'm going through this process. I've had my ovaries and fallopian tubes removed, and then I need to have a double mastectomy, and I'm going through this whole process of figuring
Wow.
this out. And then there's also the pancreas scans and it's very consuming.
That
But
sounds like yeah, it's like I didn't plan to have this be part of my story. Like I could just
what
write about these other people and their problems, but I
no,
really didn't sign up for this to be part of my story.
but I still have 2 young kids, so
Mhm.
I'm on board. We're just going to do the things we need to do and
Yeah.
make sure that because it changes things. Like my chance of getting breast cancer is 85%.
Wow.
So That's significant.
That is a
And
lot, yeah.
yeah, and ovarian cancer was like 40% and things like that. So I came up with this storyline the other day that where there's these older women and another student. She's an older grad student, but she has just been diagnosed with a BRCA mutation,
Mm,
but she doesn't know her family, even though she's living right near where her grandparents had lived, but she has no connection there. So she ends up making a connection with these older women who had been friends of her grandmother's and learning things as they support her through her process, because she's doesn't know, is she going to have children? Is she,
mm.
what should she do? How long should she wait? All of those things.
Okay,
So
that sounds like amazing. So just send this interview to your editor, and I will say, yes, please let her write this book. It sounds awesome. I know she's going to do a great job exploring all the issues and all the relationships. So, thumbs up here. So, Avid Readers gives you the thumbs up for writing that book next.
well, and I have these older ladies already, this group of 3 friends
Mm.
that are so clear in my head that I really want to work with.
It's almost
And
like the Golden Girls,
there
a little bit.
you go, like the Golden Girls, but a little maybe rougher around the edges.
Oh, well, that'll be fun. I can't wait to find about that. That's awesome. Okay, that sounds super fun. I love that these ideas are just coming, and there is that common thread of missing relationships and don't know who I am. I mean, that it seems like do all your books, do you think, have those threads of like trying to find out who you are, or we're going deep
Just
here?
to some extent. I mean, I'm thinking back on my first book, If We Make It Home, and
Yeah, I haven't
that's
read that one yet.
this
I'm
3
gonna go
women
back.
who get lost in the Cascades together, and they had been friends
Mm,
20 years prior. But they're all very lost at that point in their lives
hmm.
because of different situations that they're in. And so, in some ways, it's like finding out who they are now,
Yeah.
not necessarily who they are as a whole, but just who am I now that my life has made this change.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and read that one. Get in an
Yes.
audiobook. It'll wake me up again in the middle of the
That
night
one's,
saying,
that one's not on audio, though. So
"What?"
I know the first
Oh,
2 are not on audio. I
okay,
love
well, will
audiobooks.
you read to me if I no,
Yeah.
just kidding.
You just call me and I'll read to you at
Yeah,
night.
okay. That'll
Unless
work.
you fall asleep first.
That'll work. I'll have to read. I do read, especially when I travel. I'll take my Kindle and read, like actually read books. But audiobooks, man, when I'm cooking, found lots of kids and cooking and folding laundry for days, I'm in there listening to audiobooks. So
Yep.
it really okay, but I'll read those. I'll go
Yeah,
back and
right
read
now
them.
it's washing dishes too because our dishwasher broke.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. And my
Yeah.
9-year-old needs a new dish for every bite that she puts in her mouth.
I understand that. I don't even know how 75 dishes happen between like 1 p.m. and dinner time. I'm like, where did all these dishes come from? Okay, let's get back to reading and books. So what are some Christian fiction books that you've enjoyed, maybe in the last couple of years, or something that you've really enjoyed that you could encourage others to read?
Well, I love Susie Finkbeiner. I just really enjoy her books. Um, I have Aaron Bartell's new book, but I haven't gotten started again. I started it right before I had surgery.
Mm,
And then it's like I couldn't focus for the next week or so. And then
that's
I got
that's a
COVID.
little yeah.
So
Oh man,
I am listening right now to Katie Pounder's A Flicker of Light, and I'm enjoying
ooh,
that. Um,
my grandma is literally yelling right now in the other room. I don't know if you could hear. I
my
literally just gave her food 20 minutes ago, and she's calling and asking for more food. Okay, go ahead.
um, I love so many different authors. So that and I'm all over the place on what I'm really excited to read Tony Shiloh's new book.
Oh, I'm doing that now. So,
That
like, I'm on
cover is
chapter.
so gorgeous.
Okay, let me just show you. So, I'm interviewing her next week. So I finished yours at 3:30 in the well, probably 4 o'clock by the time I actually finished. Let me go to my Audible thing real quick. Let me show you the cover. I'm interviewing her next week. I'm on chapter 6, so it is really good.
Yeah,
I'm
seriously,
really. Oops,
the
I don't know if you
cover's
can see that. I'm trying to get it focused in there. There it is. Yeah. So this is what I just started this morning after I woke up again after going back to sleep. I've
yeah.
been Yeah. So it's really good. You're gonna enjoy it very much. I need to branch out more because what I will do, like now you're on my list of one of my favorite people to read. I will just read the same people, and then I'll find another person and read, which is good. It's a good problem to have. But like, I haven't read some of the people that you just mentioned. I'm like, I need to get in there.
Karen Barnett has a new book coming out. Oh, it's
Oh
got a
yeah,
bird on it. I can't remember the name because it changed. So Karen, she's in my critique group here locally, and
I love
I
her.
really love this new book.
Oh good. Oh, so fun. And that's a fun thing about. I mean, there are so many good writers now. And I was thinking about that like when I first started reading Christian fiction, there's Jeanette Oke and then Robin Jones Gunn. I got into some of her books and then I mean we're talking in the early 90s. Like Multnomah had the Palisades line with some of those romances, but now it's like every time I look on avid readers of Christian fiction, I'm like, who is this person and how did they just have 5 books and I've never even heard of them before? And people are like talking about their books all the time. So I just love that there's so many books by so many authors and um, it's great. There's never an end to all the wonderful books we could read, which is awesome until my husband says, "You know how many audiobooks you bought last month?" I'll be like, "Yes,
We
thank
don't
you."
talk about that in
We
my
don't
house.
talk yeah, we don't talk about the audiobooks. I'm like, "But we can write them off because I'm a writer and I'm researching as I'm listening to these audiobooks." Okay, so before we close, let's talk about writers conferences. So let's just put a little
Hey,
plug. So just put a little plug in for that.
Cascade Christian Writers Conference is coming up in June, and our keynote speaker is going to be amazing. You do not want to miss Trisha Goyer. So if you're a writer, head on out to Oregon, and we're going to be at Canby Grove this time, and it's so peaceful
Oh, I
and
cannot wait.
so relaxing. And I mean, you can just lay there and listen to the river and the birds, and it is absolutely calming. Um, we have Sean Smucker coming and Jamie Jo Bright is coming, which is there's so many amazing people that are going to be there. And it's just going to be both, I think encouraging, but also refreshing.
I was just working on my keynote, one of my keynotes today. I was just working on it because I'm just getting it firmed up in my head. And I'm just like so excited about it. So I have to say that. Very
it's
excited about it.
it's going to be great. I can't wait to just be with everyone and just talk about books and writing and all the weird stuff that my family does not understand.
Understand. Exactly. We
You
just
know,
get in our little groups and yeah.
my
It's,
poor accountant husband.
yeah.
Like, we've been married a long time and he still has no idea what to do with me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But then all the people at the conference do. So
yes, I to them, I guess, because they don't give me that look of what
what?
what are you talking about? That's the look I get from my husband all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's wonderful. So if you are a published author, it's wonderful. If you have books in the process, it's wonderful. But if you're an avid reader and you say, you know what, do you think I could do this? I've always dreamed of writing a book. I guarantee you're going to get something out of the conference. And I mean, I always say go for the talks, go for the messages, go to get inspired, but also the people around the table. Like my very first writers conference in 1994, I am still really good friends with lots of the people that I met there that we talk all the time. Like it's the relationships that you build at these conferences really make a huge, huge difference. So I'm so excited to see you in person too. It's going to be awesome.
I will not be fitting into any of my 1989 graduate clothing to wear. I wish I could so that I could wear that.
I
You know,
I have my weed high sweatshirt. I can see if it still fits me. It might still fit me. Can I come if it says weed high on my sweatshirt? Is that
well,
okay?
yes, because we're all from Oregon. We know we've all driven through weed.
I know. Most people, like, I'm in Little Rock now, they're like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Oh, okay. So, back to the
So if you
book.
want to see Oregon, come visit us. Come
Yes,
to our conference.
exactly. All right. Shaped by the Waves. It's out now. Audiobook is out because I just listened to it. Book is out. Kindle book is out. Highly recommended. And then where can people go to find more information about you and your writing and all these other wonderful books that'll be coming out?
Well, my website is ChristinaSuzannNelson.com. Just make
Like
sure you
that.
spell Nelson or Suzann weird without the E. It's just Suzann. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook are the main places that you'll find me. Other than that, and yeah,
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's super fun. I love your books. I'm going to go back and read some of the other ones too. So thank you so much.
thanks, Trisha.